Good morning. This is the second video I made today. The first video I made was I decided to delete it and make this video because this is a video I've been sort of putting off making. But I'm gonna let's just get to the nitty gritty of it. Let's just get right to it. If you want to understand nature, the first thing you have to understand is nature is complex and diverse. And we are nature personified. So basically what I'm trying to say is that generalizations don't work. I'm trying to say, like, for example, that someone does something because, this is because, and he's a bad man and he's this and he's that. It's a stupid generalizations of basically opinions, and people giving you opinions that aren't going to serve you very well. So really what you have to do is, rather than your generalizations, is stand back and seek to understand. And the first question you have to ask yourself is, what is the nature of the beast? What is the nature of the beast? Like, for example, in Plato's Symposium, there was a man who was engaged in the discussion, and he more or less liked what he considered to be the good life, which is more or less drinking and having sex, preying on women or whatever, and obviously men as well, because he wanted to have sex with Socrates, because of Socrates' energy, because of Socrates' vibe. He wanted to prey on Socrates. Because this is what the lower animal does. If you watch a yard full of cats, you might have one or two cats get raped 3 times a day because the big toms just stalk them around the yard and rape them. And some cats, the older cats are able to fight off the toms, and they're able to choose who to mate with and who they won't mate with. But some of the cats are more docile, and they don't get to fight off the big toms, so they get raped. They're docile, they're weak. The weaker cats get raped, and nobody imposes their morality on this. This is just nature. And this is nature. So basically, what your man is like a lower animal. He just preys on the weak, well, I won't say necessarily the weak, but he preys on other animals. Well, we're animals. We are animals. We're mammals, in fact. So he preys on other animals to satisfy his own selfish interests. But that's all he really cares about, is satisfying his own needs. But he wanted to have sex with Socrates, and Socrates said to him, "No, you have an inferior soul. I wouldn't have sex with somebody who has an inferior soul." Now, then there's a university professor who teaches Stoicism, and he made the claim that Socrates was not a sage because he engaged in pedestry. In other words, he used to have sex with his students. He used to have lovers. He had male lovers. So he had 2 wives, and he had several male lovers who were his students, and then they became his lovers. Now, this was Greek culture. Pedestry was Greek culture. They didn't see anything wrong with it, so nobody imposed a morality on it, and nobody saw anything wrong with it. But he is imposing his morality from this generation, from this time, from this culture. He's imposing his opinion on nature, and he's therefore contesting the fact that Socrates is not a sage because he engaged in physical pleasure. But if you actually seek to understand instead of imposing your opinion on it, this would be what's called erotic bonding. So when there was already a connection between the teacher and the student, which is quite common for there to be this connection, because this connection is necessary for the student to learn and for the teacher to teach. This connection is necessary. But if you understand that we can't control our feelings, we can't control our thoughts, this connection is nature. It's the universe creates this connection in order for it to be a bond, in order for the student to be so interested in what's being taught, and for the teacher to have an interest in teaching what he's teaching. So there's a bond that gets created, and then if there's what's called erotic bonding, which is well, for those who have experienced this bond, this is a very strong bond. It's a very strong bond, but basically, like, as I remember when I was in such a bond, when somebody speaks, it's the very same as Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. You hang on every word they say. Now, these lovers of Socrates went on to become great generals. Because of Socrates' teaching, because I was talking to a chap last night, the same electrical engineer we were talking last night about, Alexander, and he's what made Alexander great. And I was saying that one of the great things that made Alexander great was the teachings of Aristotle. Aristotle taught him all about life, about nature, about strategy, how to have strategy. And with this strategy then and this understanding of nature, as Sun Tzu said, if you know yourself and you know your enemy, you need not fear 1,000 battles. But with this strategy and with this understanding of life and this understanding of nature, Alexander was able to take relatively small, a much smaller army and take on much larger armies and win. Because of strategy. But this strategy comes from an understanding of yourself and an understanding of nature. And then you don't ride bald-headed in, because if you just ride into the army, full charge ahead, you're just a lamb to the slaughter. You're just going to get slaughtered. But with strategy, you can take on much larger forces and win. And this is why I say Julius Caesar was another great strategist. He did the same. Using strategy, he was able to take on much larger armies and win. But anyway, this is one of the purposes of philosophy. So when we're at the course then the other night, this is nature using erotic bonding to serve a purpose. Or it is also nature if the predator, if it's a lower animal, and he will prey on the other animals. This is nature, prey and predator. This is a binary opposite. Now, I can't tell you to be that if you're prey, you can change your values in relation to your nature, but really, if you're a koala bear, well, really, then you have to. You can't. You don't really have a choice to be a predator. A koala bear can't be a predator, can it? But all it can do is more or less come under the protection of a predator and fulfill a certain role. But the first thing you'd have to do is realise that you're being preyed on, and so I suppose this is an awareness that there's not really much I can do for you if you're prey, but just come to the realisation that you're being preyed on by predators. So basically, acknowledge where you stand. But if you are being preyed on by predators, you just have to accept that this is nature. This is nature. And then we were talking about love then the other night, and we were talking about erotic bonding, and then and specifically in relation to the generals and the soldiers in the Spartan army, this is Sparta, and how there was erotic bonding between the generals and the soldiers, because when there is this erotic bonding and love is the greatest energy of all, they protected the general at all costs, and this is basically how you use this erotic bonding. Everything is how you use it. So this is nature. This is nature doing what nature does, creating an erotic bond, because you can ask yourself how much control we actually have, but nature will do what nature does, and we'll all do what is in our nature to do. But this is then, again, how you use it. So this is nature using erotic bonding to serve a certain purpose. It made the Spartan army a very formidable force. Because this is love and war. And this then, when we were talking about this the other night, I was able to make a connection between love and war, because they go hand in hand. They always went hand in hand. But this is a very direct connection of love and war. And basically how love made them, because it's the greatest energy of all, because of erotic bonding, because of love, they were a very formidable fighting force. They were one of the best fighting forces that ever existed, because of love being the greatest energy of all, and it made them one of the best fighting forces that ever existed. But again, everything is how you use it, and I keep saying to you, if you look at everything, how you use it, love comes under this, and love is very important under this. But first of all, you have to change your concept of love, and you have to understand love, and basically don't let them use love as emotional manipulation. They tell you what love is. To take the money from your pocket, to exploit you, they teach you a concept that serves their interest, So really what you have to start doing is you're going to have to start looking at what serves your interest. And you're going to have to start looking at how your opinions serve you and how their opinions are benefiting them. For example, I have a woman emailing me now, selling me a course on Stoicism. She wants to sell me a course on Stoicism where I go to a group thing. I can go on a Zoom chat every Wednesday for 10 euro a month. I can go to a group chat where she'll bust me with Stoic affirmations, which are free online anyway. I can go into Daily Stoic and get free affirmations all fucking day long. But she's going to throw Stoic affirmations at me because the first thing she texted me was to tell me how sick I am, that I'm, what would I do if I wasn't so anxious? What would I do if I could overcome my misery, my depression, my fear? So the first thing she did was assure me of how sick I am and that she's going to be my saving grace. She's going to save me. So the first thing she does, she's a doctor. We call her Dr. Grease, but she's actually a doctor of finance. So the actual label, Dr. Grease, is actually very misleading, but it's intentionally misleading. But all she gives a fuck about. Now, I won't judge her. She is a predator. That's for sure. She's a predator. And I won't judge her intent because I don't know her intent. So I don't know how virtuous her actions are. But as I said, I wanted to reply back to her and said, maybe this is a projection on your part, that maybe I said, you're suffering from anxiety and depression from hankering after money all day. I said, maybe this is a possibility and a probability, but I'm not in the least bit, I don't have any of those mental health issues. Thank you very much. I would, but at the same time, I wanted to go along today. I said to myself, I'm unfree of this group therapy. I'll get in like a cat amongst the pigeons and I'll stir this up. So I said I'll go to the month free. But in order to get the month free, I first of all had to give my email address, which I gladly did. That's how she's emailing me now, selling me courses. This is the stupid business model that has been going on for the last 10 or 15 years. It's a stupid business model. It's a stupid business model. Maybe she could contact me and I'll teach her some business because I have strategy. You might not appear it, but I have strategy. But her stupid business model is a fixed pattern that comes handed down from Dan Penner, the lad who I showed you. I put his video earlier today about how to be a lion. But he teaches you how to prey on people, So this is what these people do. They prey on the weak. They prey on the sheep because you're only wool and lamb chops. That's what you are to these people. That's what you are to predators. But the thing is, I'm not preying on you. I couldn't give a fuck about you. I couldn't give a fuck about the wool and lamb chops. Let her have the wool and lamb chops. I want to prey on the big game. And it's not you. It's big game. You'll see what my target is. My target is the people who are preying on you. The big game, because nature does to us what we do to others. So this makes me the hand of justice. But basically, she is a predator and I am a predator. But she's preying on wool and lamb chops and I'm preying on the big game. But basically, what I'm trying to tell you is that these people who are giving you these opinions about your victims, and how that was wrong, and how that was the wrong thing to do, and how you were abused, and how you were betrayed, and how you were basically, this is nature. And if you seek to understand nature, the first thing you have to do is you have to look at the individual circumstances, and you have to say to yourself, what exactly is the situation here? Because in a lot of cases, believe me, this was consensual. Like, for example, if you take Boy George, he was in a sexual relationship at 14 years of age, in a homosexual relationship at 14 years of age, by his own consent. And he comes out and he says, yes, I was very content to be in this relationship, and it was it really helped me in understanding myself and all life. But then you come along and you take all the goodies and all the people imposing their morality on it, such as the Christians who themselves were involved in pedestry, even though they sweep it under a carpet. Everything got swept under a carpet. And the reason for that is they couldn't control themselves. But the reason is What you see in others, look for in yourself first. This is what nature was teaching them. What you see in others, look for in yourself first. But of course, they didn't look for themselves. They just fucking criticised everybody else and imposed their morality on everybody else in their nature, which causes feelings of guilt and shame, guilt and shame, guilt and shame. And then psychiatry and the psychiatrists took up this crusade of guilt and shame and imposing guilt and shame on you, which encouraged you to come for spiritual guidance, or in the psychiatry and the psychology, give us some fucking money and get some therapy, pay more money and get some more therapy. They're creating their own customers through your victimization. Goodbye.